Okay, so good day everyone. So our topic for today, it's all about the sociological perspective in understanding the self. So first, let's try to define what is sociology means. Okay, so sociology, it says here that it is a social science that studies human societies, their interactions, and the processes that preserve and change them. So, in short, sociology focuses on the systematic understanding of social interaction, especially the behavior and the attitudes of the different people around or within the city, and also its social organization, social institutions, and social change. And there are some sociologists have their views about the self. So first, andito si Margaret Mead. Margaret Mead was born December 16, 1901 and died November 15, 1978. She was an important sociologist who spent his career at the University of Chicago in early 90s. He credited with helping to develop the symbolic interactions perspective. So she was the proponent of Mead's theory of the self. So I have a story here to generalize what Mead's theory of the self. So Jeannie, who got left alone in a room until she was 13, when then found her at 13, she couldn't really speak. She couldn't really walk. So she really had no development of the self. So our bodies age biologically, but the self is something that emerged through social interaction. And so, in this way, Mead's genius was to see that the self as a social, not as biological. Okay, so our self and our notion of who we are, what we like, what our personality is, becomes constructed through being in the world, through interactions, through reflection in thinking about the interaction, and then more interaction with others. And so the self is developed as we age, as we grow, and it is not something innate or biological. So your self develops through interacting with others, through reflective in nature, to think about how others are perceiving us, and that helps us to generate an image of ourselves. Okay, so social experiences, being in the world allows us to have interactions and exert our forming personalities and see how the self that we put out there on display for others is being reacted to. So how are they reacting right now? And so in this way, our self is mirrored in the reaction of others, and we call that the looking glass self, or Charles Cooley. I know that you are aware on what is the theory or the looking glass self according to Charles Horton Cooley. Okay, so so Mead's theory of the self. Mead theorized that the self has two parts, self-awareness and a self-image. So Mead's theory of the self is completely social. Okay, we build ourselves in the environment around us. Okay, so yourself develops through interacting with others, through reflective on that interaction to think how others are perceiving you, and that helps you generate an image of yourself. So given that a self-image was developed in recognizing how others are perceiving us, okay, so we are constantly trying to put ourselves in the shoes of others and think about how they are seeing this event or situation or this action transpiring. So Mead called this imitation. Okay, so we are constantly with imitation, trying to see that the world from others' point of view. Okay, so now let's proceed to Albert Bandura. So Albert Bandura, he is a psychologist For almost 6 decades, he has been responsible for contributions to the field of education and to many fields of psychology, including social, cognitive theory, therapy, and personality psychology, and was influential. Also responsible for the influential of 1961 Bobo Doll experiment. Okay? So now, he's one of the famous, the social learning theory. What concepts lies behind this social learning theory? Okay, so social learning theory is a theory that attempts to explain socialization and its effect on the development of the self. So social learning theory suggests that social behavior is learned by observing and imitating the behavior of others. So the learning theory has four mediational processes that help determine whether a new behavior is acquired. Okay? So, andito ang attention, retention, reproduction, and motivation. So, when we say attention, it is the degree to which we notice the behavior. Okay? So, a behavior must grab our attention before it can be imitated. So, considering the number of behaviors we observe and do not imitate daily indicates attention is crucial in whether a behavior influences imitation. Okay, so next is retention. How well we remember the behavior. Okay, so we cannot perform the behavior if we do not remember the behavior. Okay, so while a behavior may be noticed unless a memory is formed, and the observer will not perform the behavior. And because social learning is not immediate, retention is vital to behavior modeling. Okay, so next is reproduction. Okay, it is the ability to perform the behavior. Okay, this is the ability to reproduce a behavior we observe. Okay, so it influences our decision about whether to try the performing the behavior, or even when we wish to imitate and observe behavior. Okay, so we are limited by our physical abilities. Okay, so when we say motivation, the will to emulate the behavior. Okay, so the mediational process is referred to as vicarious reinforcement. It's either in a positive reinforcement or negative reinforcements. So it involves learning through observing the consequences of actions for other people rather than through direct experiences. Okay, so in addition to the behavior, rewards and punishment that follow will be studied by the observer. If the observer perceives the rewards to be greater than the costs, then they will most likely imitate that behavior. Okay, so if however, the vicarious reinforcement is not valued enough by the observer, they will not model the behavior. Okay? So during 1960, Albert Bandura conducted a series of experiments on observational learning, collectively known as the Bobo Doll experiments. This is the famous experiment of Albert Bandura. So Bandura and Rose, during in the 1961, they tested 36 boys and 36 girls from the Stanford University nursery school aged between 3 to 6 years old. So there are 3 stages of Bobo Doll experiment. We have the modeling, aggressive arousal, and tests for delayed imitation. So Bobo Doll experiment, it is the groundbreaking study on aggression led by the psychologist Albert Bandura that demonstrated that children are able to learn through the observation of adult behavior. Okay, now let's proceed to the stage 1, which is the modeling. So 24 children, okay, it is divided into 12 boys and 12 girls. Watch a male or female model behaving aggressively towards a toy called a Bobo Doll. Okay, so another 24 children were exposed to a non-aggressive model who played in a quiet and subdued manner for 10 minutes, playing with a tinker toy set and ignoring the Bobo Doll. Okay? So the final 24 children, okay, were used as a control group and not exposed to a model at all. Okay? So doon sa 24 children, okay, na nanood, watch a male or female model behaving aggressively towards a toy called a Bobo Doll. The adults attack the Bobo Doll in a distinctive manner. Okay, so they use a hammer in some cases, and in others through the doll, and pinagsusuntok yung doll, and so on and so forth. Okay? So in the stage 2, aggression arousal. Okay, so all the children, including the control group, were subjected to a mild aggression arousal. So each child was taken to a room with relatively attractive to the toys. In this second phase of the experiment, the children were taken individually into a different experimental room where they were presented with a new group of appealing toys. Okay, andyan ang train, kahit anong mga toys, fire engine, cable car, jet plane, spinning top, doll, with wardrobe, baby crib, and doll carriage. Okay, so in order to test the hypothesis that the observation of aggression in others would increase the likelihood of aggression in the observer. Okay, so the children were subjected to aggression arousal in the form of being told after 2 minutes that they could no longer play with the toys. Okay, so the children were then told that they could however play with the toys in another room, okay, where they were presented the various toys that were considered both aggressive. Andyan yung 3-foot Bobo Doll, Malay, at saka yung dart guns, okay. And the non-aggressive toys, they have the crayons, paper, farm, animals, tea set, ball, and dolls. Okay, nakita niyo yung pagkakaiba ng mga toys na binigay doon sa mga different groups. Okay? So dito na tayo sa test stage 3. Anong meron dito sa stage 3? Okay? The next room contained some aggressive toys and some non-aggressive toys. Yung mga non-aggressive toys included a tea set, crayons, 3 bears, and plastic farm animals. While aggressive toys is included a Malay, a pegboard, dart, guns, and 3-foot Bobo Doll. Okay? So, the child was in the room for 20 minutes and their behavior was observed, rated through a one-way mirror. Okay? So, observation were made at 5-second intervals. So, therefore, giving 240 response unit for each child, other behaviors that didn't imitate that of the model were also recorded. Okay? Yung example is yung punching the Bobo Doll on the nose. Okay? So conclusion says that the Bobo Doll experiment demonstrated that children are able to learn social behavior such as aggression through the processes of observation learning. Okay? Through watching the behavior of another person. Okay? Okay, so here is the results of the Bobo Doll. Okay? Children who observed the aggressive model made far more imitative aggressive responses than those who were in the non-aggressive or control groups. Okay, so there was more partial and non-imitative aggression among those children who had observed aggressive behavior, although the difference for non-imitative aggression was small. Okay, so the girls in the aggressive model condition also showed more physical aggressive responses if the model was male, but more verbal aggressive responses if the model was female. However, the exemption to this general pattern was observation of how often they punch Bobo. Okay, Bobo is the doll. Okay, and in this case, the effects of the gender were reversed. Okay, so boys were more likely to imitate same-sex models than girls. The evidences for the girls imitating same-sex models is not strong. So boys imitated more physically aggressive acts than girls. So there was little difference in the verbal aggression between boys and girls. And now let's proceed to social self and socialization. Okay, so it says here that George Herbert Mead, a sociologist from the late 1800s, is well known for his theory of the social self, which includes the concepts of a self, me, and I. So when we say me, it is considered the socialized aspect of the individuals. The me represents learned behavior, our attitudes and expectations of others and society. Okay? The me is considered a phase of the self that is in the past. Okay? So the me has been developed by the knowledge of society and social interactions that the individual has gained. Okay? So I therefore can be considered the present and the future phase of the self. So the I represents the individual's identity based on the response to the me. Okay? So the me and the I have a deductive relationship. It is like a system of check and balance. Okay, so the me exercises the societal control over oneself. So the me is what prevents someone from breaking the rules or boundaries of social expectations. And the I allows the individual to still express creativity and individualism, and understand when to possibly bend and stretch the rules that govern social interactions. Okay, so the I and the me make up the self, according to Mead, George Herbert. Okay? Okay, so according to Mead, there are three activities that develop the self. We have the language, play, and games. So language, it develops self by allowing individuals to respond to each other through symbols, gestures, words, and sounds. Okay, so language, it conveys others' attitude and opinions towards a subject or the person. Okay, so emotions such as anger, happiness, and confusions are conveyed through language. Okay, so we have play. Okay, play is, it develops self by allowing individuals to take on different roles, pretend and express expectation of others. Play develop oneself consciousness through role playing. Okay, so during the role play, the person is able to internalize the perspective of others and develop an understanding on how other feels about themselves and others in a variety of social institutions. So most of the time, children play and they tend to imitate that in professions or any role in the society, isn't it? Okay, so games, okay, develop self by allowing individuals to understand and adhere to the rules of the activity. Okay, so self is developed by understanding that there are rules in which one must abide by in order to win the game or successful at an activity. Okay? And now let's proceed on the real self versus the ideal self. So what is really real self? Is it real or yung totoo nga bang totoo yung pinapakita mo sa sarili mo? At yung self naman is, it is a false self for you? That's right. Okay? So according to here, okay, real self is who we actually are. The real self is our self-image, while the ideal self is how we want to be. It is an idealized image that we have developed over time, okay, based on what we have learned and experienced. Okay, so in psychology, okay, the real self and the ideal self are terms to use to describe personality domains. Okay, so the real self, it is how we think, how we feel, it is on how we look and act in the society. And the real self can be seen by others, but because we have no way of truly knowing how others view us. Okay, so the real self is our self image. Okay, so when we say ideal self naman, on the other hand, it is how we want to be it is on how we want to be. Okay, so it is an idealized image that we have developed over time based on what we have learned and experienced. Okay, so ideal self could include the components of what our parents have taught us, what we admire in others, and also what our society promotes and what we think is in our best interest. Okay? Now, this is the different agents of socialization, and I know that when you are I know that you are all aware on this different socialization. Okay, so families introduce children to the expectations of society. Well, in family, they teach us the good manners, the values, and etc. Okay, it builds our character as an individual. So in media, the average young person aged to 19 spends 6 to 3/4 hours per day immersed in the media in various forms, often using multiple media forms simultaneously. So television is the dominant medium, although half of all youth use a computer daily. Okay, so in this socialization or social institutions, they they are one of the factors that can influence in building ourselves. Okay, in building ourselves. Okay, so peers, okay, children, peer culture is an important source of identity. Through the interaction with peers, children learn concepts of self, gain social skills, and form values and attitudes. Well, in peers, we tend to influence ourselves if we conform. Di ba may tinatawag tayong conformity. Okay? So, meron din tayong kapag sumama ka sa mga when you are in a good environment, your personality will tend to be good. Okay? While if your environment is bad, you tend to be your personality as bad. Okay? Just halimbawa, kung nakatira ka sa isang lugar na puro paramura sila, puro magnanakaw ang mga nandun, you tend to adopt that environment. Okay? So, religion naman, children tend to develop the same religious beliefs as their parents. So, very often those who have this vow religion return to their original faith at some point in their life, especially if they have strong ties to their family of origin and after they form families of their own. Okay, so andito ang sports and school. Okay, so through sports, men and women learn concepts of self. Men learn that being competitive in sports is considered a part of manhood. Okay, schools. In schools, teachers and other students are the source of expectations that encourage children to think and behave in a particular ways. So research finds that teachers respond differently to boys than the girls, with boys receiving more of their attention. That is true. Okay? That is true. It is a research base. Okay? So thank you very much and stay safe and God bless. How might social reaction then give rise to self?